We see Donald Trump meeting with foreign leaders, and the Secretary of State is not there. We see Donald Trump saying the answer in Iraq is we just take their oil fields. That's how we're going to pay for this. And then we see the Secretary of Defense go to Iraq and say we're not here to take anybody's oil fields. We see Donald Trump say NATO's a useless organization, and then we see Mike Pence go to Europe and say we're all behind NATO and the European Union. So the question that nobody else can answer is, who's running foreign policy for the Trump administration?
I don't know why you think I can answer that question. And you forgot Trump immediately saying that.
You could go down. There's a long list.
That the removals and then the new immigration policy directives are military operation.
Yes. Yeah.
And then immediately after,
John Kelly
in Mexico saying under no circumstances is this a military operation.
Okay. Yeah. We could add to that list. Even,
who's running foreign policy? I don't know. I don't think anyone knows. At this moment, I'm not sure if President Trump knows. But there was the hope that the characters that you mentioned, the figures that you mentioned, General Mattis, retired General John Kelly, Rex Tillerson, that they were going to be the quote-unquote adults in the room, that they were experienced, substantial enough figures, particularly these former Marine generals, that they were going to be able to sort of moderate or temper Donald Trump's instincts when it came to foreign policy. And we have not seen that. We have not seen them be able to do so. And they are kind of constantly sent out to do this cleanup job for President Trump's foreign policy. But the distance between their comments and the president's comments, in that gap, there's incredible uncertainty and instability in their international community for enemies and allies alike. I mean, there's a great story out today from my coworkers, Dan DeLuce and John Hudson, talking to a bunch of European partners, European allies, where they're basically looking for plan B and C. I mean, looking for ways that they can work outside of the U.S. because they can't depend on the U.S. as a partner. They don't know whose messages are really the ones to trust: Mattis, Kelly, Tillerson, or what's coming out of the White House. And then we obviously also have some tensions in terms of the basic structure of the National Security Council. A lot of people were concerned about the elevation of Steve Bannon and sort of the de-emphasis of some other positions that have been key. We may see that turn around with McMaster now as the National Security Advisor, but it's really too soon to tell. And I think looking at Tillerson is a really interesting example. Obviously, Tillerson doesn't have government experience like a Mattis, like a Kelly, like a McMaster. But he's hardly had a presence. His first public comments at all were last week in Mexico, where he sort of essentially read from a piece of paper and didn't take any questions, and has even been looking to elevate his own public persona. So I think that's a perfect example of how one of the most powerful positions in the past of being an architect or an emissary for foreign policy has been totally sidelined. And then we see today. We're expected to get budget outlines,
right?
And tens of billions of dollars cut from the State Department.
Cut from the State Department. And Tillerson, I believe, does not yet have a press secretary.
They have not been holding press conferences at all.
Right.
So I'm not sure who the.
They used to have a daily press briefing at the State Department,
of course,
which was well covered. I don't believe they have a spokesperson.
No, they don't.
No.
They have a spokesperson.
And so it's sort of pretty clear, absent major changes, that Tillerson has been sidelined already as Secretary of State. I mean, if Trump is meeting with presidents of other countries, foreign leaders in the Oval Office, Hillary or John Kerry or Susan Rice, I mean, they were always there with President Obama.
Right. And
not with President Trump.
And those meetings went, there was extensive briefings that went on ahead of those calls. Because of the concern that, these relationships are going to shape the entirety of foreign policy in the next 4 years. And misspeaking, potentially offending a foreign leader, or just sort of, stumbling into something rhetorically, can actually spark an international incident. And that's the reason why these briefings took place ahead of these calls. And we already have seen sort of some of the fallout from the lack of preparation in doing that. President Trump's call with Mexican President Enrique Peña Nieto, for example, is a perfect way to look at that. And that was just after and just before some of these dramatic changes to immigration policy that the U.S. really needs Mexico in order to carry out. So that's just a way in which you can see that this sort of lack of preparation or this sort of confusion about who's the quarterback here could have a direct impact on American foreign policy. So we'll see how this budget battle plays out, but I imagine Tillerson is probably as shocked as anyone to see that his department will have billions of dollars less, at least that was the sort of opening bid.